Hello friends, I am Dr. Kuldeep Mohadikar. In this video, I will present my 33rd chapter from my series Literary Pearls. The title of the chapter is Robert Browning as a Love Poet. Browning is one of the greatest love poets of love in the whole range of English poetry. Since John Donne, nowhere does he display his inherent power more clearly than in his treatment of love. But his treatment of love is original. His own conjugal love for his wife, Elizabeth Barrett, ran happy course and forms one of the great romances in English literature. His life is a perfect specimen of love to all the lovers of the world. As Chesterton calls Browning, I quote, the greatest of the love poet, and his poetry the finest love poetry in the world, I unquote. Browning began writing love poetry early in his career and continued it up to the very end. His following poems as best example of his love career: The Last Ride Together, Andrea del Sarto, By the Fireside, Love Among Ruins, which show varieties of his love poetry. As Sir Henry James rightly points out that, I quote, to love, he repeatedly tells us, is the sole and supreme object of man's life. It is the one lesson which he has learned on earth, and love, once learned in that way, matters little. It leaves completion in the soul. I unquote. In Browning's love poetry, he does not treat of absolute love of idea or love of one's own country, nor he describes the physical charms and beauties or moods of the fair sex. He treats of the actual passion. He confines himself to the love between men and women. His poem expresses the isolated passion of one sex for other. Browning's love is not merely sensuous, but it is intellectual. He could treat of impassioned youthful love even in his old age is insufficient to establish his greatness as love poet. As far as in his poem By the Fireside, he is revealing those blissful moments when he met his love lady in youth. He divides from the intensity of the recollection into a discussion of what have been if she had not been what she was again in life in a love. Browning writes, I quote, Beloved, while I am I and you are you, so long as the world contains us both, me the loving and you the loth. I unquote. In Browning's love poems, both spiritual and physical love meet very beautifully. Browning does not neglect the physical love when he teaches spiritual love. He treats both of them, physical and spiritual love. For him, the brightest truth, the purest truth in the universe often lies, I quote, in the kiss of a girl. In the poem By the Fireside, he expresses strong earthly and sensuous love as well as the love of spirit. His love poems may be divided into two groups, personal and impersonal. In his personal poems, By the Fireside and The Last Ride Together, dwell upon the devotional love which he had for his wife. Some of his impersonal poems are Love Among the Ruins, Andrea del Sarto, The Beauty and Beast, etc. In these poems, he describes love with seriousness of who has left youth behind. He presents not the love of happy youth, but love tossed on the stormy seas of manhood and womanhood. Love is intermingled with graver thought of life. Idealism and realism in love is there as the conception of love in Browning's love poetry. According to Browning, love is meeting point of man and God. Love is the supreme principle both of morality and religion. It is the quality by which man touches the infinite, the quality common to God and man. It is the philosophical principle which harmonizes and unifies all beings, moral ideal towards which man must strive to advance. I quote, O world, as God has made it all beauty, and knowing this is love, and love is duty. I unquote. For Browning, love is the great magician clothing the barrenness of earth with the glory of summer. As Chesterton remarks, I quote, sentiment must have reality, I unquote. Emotion demand the real field, real windows, homes, the real corpse, and the real woman. And therefore, Browning's love poetry is the finest love poetry in the world because it does not speak about raptures and gates of heaven, but about window panes and garden walls. It does not deal with much abstraction. It is the truest of love poetry because it does not speak much about love. He expresses celestial time when a man does not think about heaven but a parasol, and therefore he is firstly the greatest of love poets, secondly the only optimistic philosopher except Whitman. Browning deals with both married and unmarried love, but like Tennyson, he prefers to depict and celebrate married love because in such love he founds particular sublimity of emotions which is not found in mere passionate excitement of unmarried love. Also, Browning seems to prefer affection of a wife or a mother to the tumultuous youthful passion of a beloved. Browning gives sanctify to love and treat it as a beautifying and sanctifying force which is opposed to all evil forces. In one of the finest love poems, by the fireside, he sitting silently with his wife by the fireside, the poet muses on their life and on the blessing of which her love had bestowed upon him. It is a remarkable, vivid picture of peaceful and satisfied married life, full of sweet memories. He says, I quote, Oh, the little more and how much it is, and the little less and what words away. How a sound shall quicken away content to bliss. I unquote. The poems of Browning are complex and comprehensive, dealing with cases of successful as well as failure love. The love of man and woman is partly successful and unsuccessful. Among the successful love poems we have By the Fireside, One Word More, and Despair are Love Among the Ruins, The Last Ride Together, Any Wife, Any Husband. In this respect, T.S. Young says, I quote, the tragedies of love are of Browning's women rather than for his men. I unquote. All the love poems of Browning, whether dealing with cases of success in love or failure in love, but he believes in optimism. Just as according to him, efforts is its own reward or triumph, so also love in itself is fulfillment. He thinks that a lover need not despair for love is its own reward. And I quote, God is mighty to create and mighty to grant. I unquote. He creates love to grant the love. Thanks, friends. This was all about Browning's poem or Browning as a love poet. Thanks, friends.